Welcome to the Purpose-Based Retirement with certified financial planner Casey Weade. Casey is the president of Howard Bailey Financial.
Whatever risk you face during your retirement years, we've got a plan.
A published author and radio host.
It's not how much we make during the good times, it's how much we keep during those really bad times.
His advocacy for retirees and pre-retirees has made him a sought-after speaker and trusted financial leader.
And putting a real plan together.
This is the Purpose-Based Retirement.
Thanks for joining us again. I am Lee Kelso here with Casey Weade and Marshal Johnson, certified financial planners with Howard Bailey Financial. When it comes to your retirement, well, we may have to face some uncomfortable facts, right? So we're starting the show today with 5 uncomfortable questions you need to ask your financial advisor just to make sure he or she is the right person for the job. Also, we have a question from a Raytheon retiree. She's checking in to say she doesn't really need a big return on her portfolio, but she does want to make sure that she's not leaving any money on the table. And Casey looks ahead to help you understand some key factors determining how much you can expect from Social Security. All right, guys, 5 questions, tough questions that you guys face from time to time, or that I should be asking. Is that right?
Well, and in the 2017 guide, in all the books that I've written, I've put together a list of questions that you should be asking your financial advisor, or you should be asking us. And I think the beauty of it is I have people that are coming in all the time and asking me these very same questions, and I think they leave with a tremendous amount of confidence. I've been told that, having these questions, it feels empowering to not just know that I have the questions, but to know it's okay that I can ask these questions of you because you've already told me that it's okay to ask. I've encouraged them to ask those questions. And if your advisor's not encouraging you to ask a lot of questions to make sure you're 100% comfortable with where you are, then maybe you're not in the right place. And these are sometimes people see as tough questions. I know, I've always been someone that I feel like I'm a very good negotiator. And my wife would say, you're a really good negotiator. You really like to go in when you buy a car, or anytime we're making a big purchase, or we're speaking with someone that's trying to sell us something, whether it's someone that's coming in and try to get us to buy the latest, greatest water softener, or we're getting a new car. I'm very inquisitive. I want to ask a lot of questions. I want to make sure that I'm getting the best deal. And what I find is more people, often than not, they're spending more time asking those questions when they're shopping around for those items than they are with the person that's managing their life savings. And now my wife's learned from this. Now she's probably a little bit more inquisitive than I am. I would not want to be sitting across the table from her at this point because she's really learned well. And I think that these things are so imperative when it comes to your life savings.
Well, we're going to start with the one that I think most people have a tough time asking generally, and that is, what is this going to cost me? How much are you going to charge me for this?
Right. How are you compensated? How are you going to charge me? Full transparency. Casey and I talk about it a lot. We want to see 100% transparency with our relationships that we have with our clients, as I'm sure most people would like, but unfortunately they just don't ask this question. How much is it going to cost me? How do you get paid? What's the cost?
I've got a gentleman that's been a long-time fan of the show. He's been watching the show for a number of months now. He's also listened to our radio show for a couple of years now. And he said, over time, as I heard all these different things you spoke about, I started asking questions. And the more questions that I asked, the more frustrated that I got as he dug into the prospectuses. He asked questions of his advisor, and he would often get questions answered that he didn't feel like were answered fully. And he said, this industry is just incredibly frustrating to me. I think your whole industry is messed up. And I said, I agree wholeheartedly. This is one of my #1 daily frustrations, is just the lack of transparency in the financial industry. If you look at almost any other industry, such as the real estate industry, you go to buy a home, or if you sell your home today, it's going to be line by line items of exactly what your expenses are going to be, but you don't see that in the financial advice industry as a whole. Now, I would say there's probably 5%, 10% of advisors out there that are putting these things in black and white, but very few actually are. There's so much for you to figure out in order to know what you're actually paying that it does make sense to regularly get second opinions.
Another key question that you need to ask is about whether you're dealing with somebody who's captive. And so you need to find out, are you limited in products and services by an employer?
Such an important thing. I had a couple that had a variable annuity when they came in, and it had substantial capital gains because they had owned it for a very long period of time, and they wanted to move it to a lower cost variable annuity. They were paying about 4% a year inside of this variable annuity, and it had grown from about $300,000 to about $700,000, and they were paying a lot in fees inside of that vehicle, still upwards about 4% a year. year, but they'd owned it for so long that it had still grown, even with a small amount of annual returns. And they had added to it over the years as well. And now they were trying to find different ways that they could move it out of there into a lower cost variable annuity, because they didn't want to have to pay the taxes by taking it out of that thing. Now, we don't really utilize variable annuities very often, if at all. However, for this individual case, it was something that was the right thing for them and the right time. They needed the tax deferral and they wanted the exposure to the market. So we went out and found them the lowest cost variable annuity that's on the market. They'll pay $20 a month, no internal expenses except for the mutual fund cost. So there's no mortality and expense charges. They just have that $20 a month that they're going to have to pay inside of that variable annuity, and they're not going to get that with every advisor. They're really going to have to work with a fee-based advisor in order to even find that product, and most importantly, an independent advisor and not somebody that's captive, because a captive individual is never even going to have access to that.
Right, because all they can sell is what their employer provides.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, so education is an important factor. I mean, that just kind of seems obvious, but many people don't understand that you don't really need a lot of special training to be a financial advisor.
In this industry, I mean, the barriers of entry are absolutely disgustingly low. I mean, if you wanted to go out and work with a doctor, you would know that that doctor went through medical school at the very least, and if he's a specialty doctor, he went through specialty training as well in order to practice in that very special area of medicine. And it's your life. You're talking about this person holding your life in their hands. You want to make sure that they have experience, and not just experience, but also knowledge and formal education. However, there are no formal education requirements in order to be an advisor outside of your licensing. So you could step out of high school, you could get yourself a securities license in a week's time, and now you can go out and advise people on their life savings. And I put emphasis on that word life, because this is just as important as your physical life. This is your life savings, and if you lose that life savings, you can end up losing your health, and in return, losing your life. I think this is one of the things that has to change in our industry, is education requirements have to be approved. Now, this is why our advisors are either CFPs or they're in the process of getting their CFP, and they're also, if possible, I'm a retirement income certified professional, so I have a specialty in retirement. There just aren't a lot of doctorate programs from really valued colleges out there and universities that are offering those types of degrees. So we have to go to the certification industry.
Mm-hmm. One of the questions that people often don't ask but is important is, how long do you plan to work? How long does your investment advisor plan to be in that career?
Well, hey, that's a good question, right? Because if they're going to be working with you for the next 10, 15, 20 years, are they still going to be in the industry 10, 15, 20 years? You know, the average age of a financial advisor in this country right now is 59 years of age. That's something to think about when you're getting ready to embark on a long-term relationship with somebody.
You want to make sure that person's not going to be retiring when they're supposed to be managing your retirement. I think that's vital, and we're seeing more and more people that are coming in saying, you know, I just want to make sure, you know, just like I do when I shop around for a doctor again, that my doctor's younger than me and my financial advisor's younger than me, so they're around in the future.
You know, this one is kind of tough, but I think it's an important one as well, and that is, how do you invest your money, Mr. Financial Advisor?
It's such a great question. I was actually at a live event the other night, and someone at the end of the event said, well, where do you put your money? And I said, come on into the office, I'll show you all my statements. I have no problem disclosing what my personal investments are, and your advisor shouldn't either. They should be putting their money where their mouth is. They should be investing in the same thing that they're telling you to invest in, and myself and my advisors, we're doing that same thing day in and day out, and we're happy to disclose it. I think it's something that you should demand to see, because I mean, I had a potential client at one time that had come in after calling into the radio show a number of years ago. This was probably 5 or 6 years ago now, and I'll never forget it, because I asked what he did for a living. He said, oh, I was a broker. He was a securities advisor. I said, well, what'd you do a lot of? He said, well, mostly I sold variable annuities. And I said, but you don't own any? And he said, yeah, I've never owned one. I don't know why I would.
Yeah,
said, but you sold them for a living. You know, I think that's a big red flag.
Yeah, that is a red flag. Okay, guys, we have an offer that we want to make sure you take advantage of, and that is for the next 10 people who call right now, we're offering a complimentary financial review of your entire financial and retirement plan. It's an opportunity to get an education about what's happening with your money so you can make the best decision possible for yourself moving forward. So for the next 10 callers, Casey and the team will make time on their calendar just for you, sit down, visit with you, and give you your very own purpose-based retirement. We have questions from viewers coming up next. Stay tuned.
Hi, I'm a certified financial planner professional. I believe the bar for entry into the financial industry is far too low. You and your hard-earned money deserve better. With a CFP professional, you can have the confidence you are working with an advisor who has met not only rigorous education and experience requirements, but also is held to the highest ethical and professional standards in the industry, resulting in better methods that will address the financial challenges you will face in retirement. If you'd like to see how a CFP professional can serve you, give us a call.
Ready to maximize your retirement strategy? Register to attend the Purpose-Based Retirement Live with Casey Weade. Call our office at 866-482-9559 or visit www.howardbailey.com to register now.
Let's jump out to the phones and start taking questions from some of you. Let's go to LaPorte, Indiana, and Robert. Go right ahead, Robert.
My wife and I have IRAs worth about $900,000 and after-tax savings of around $200,000. We are retiring this year at 60 years of age and are choosing a 10-year period of certain pension. We plan to convert our IRAs to Roth IRAs prior to filing for Social Security. We are trying to decide if we should just convert in the 15% tax bracket or simplify things and do it all in 1 year at 40%.
Thanks for your question, Robert. And good thing you're looking into Roth conversion because you have one heck of an opportunity retiring at 60. And I've done this actually with a number of different retirees from around town that are making big pension decisions. And this can be a huge opportunity, taking that pension over 10 years, retiring at 60. And if that'll cover all of your income needs and keep you in that lower tax bracket and 15% tax bracket, then you may be able to convert a large portion, if not all of your Roth IRA, all of your traditional IRA to Roth over that next 10 years. And like you stated there, the benefits of doing that are now that you won't have to pay taxes on your Social Security once you ultimately get them. Someday you're going to have yourself a tax-free retirement. That's also going to help you on your health care expenses as well. So an important thing for you to do, and converting in the 15% bracket or the 40% bracket, I'm going to say this: patience is a virtue. There's nothing wrong with continuing to delay that thing out and doing a little bit each year. The 15%, I would say, with an IRA of that size, it's probably not going to get converted entirely over that 10-year period in the 15% bracket. You may be left with some residual after that period of time. So it may make sense for you to go ahead and convert in the 25% bracket every once in a while, or maybe even full time, depending on how quickly you want to get this done. But at least going in the 25% bracket, you're still going to get a massive tax benefit from doing so over the long haul. And now you know you're going to get that entire Roth IRA converted over that period of time from now until you reach age 70 and you get that maximum Social Security benefit. And so great thing for you to do. And there's a lot of neat analysis that can be done on that to show you what your actual tax bracket's going to be in the future, what you're going to save and Social Security taxes. So take your time in making that decision and making sure you got all your ducks in a row and you have really nailed this down.
Yeah, I would say be patient on that one. A lot could change here, but start the process. He's got a great plan in place.
Well, really somebody else could do this for him, right? And it doesn't have to be a hassle. Somebody else could be conducting this for you, doing the taxes and doing the conversion. So it doesn't have to be your hassle. You can be somebody else's hassle for maybe next to nothing.
Well, and we want to get that clarification on the Trump. We know it's going to be huge, but outside of that, we don't really know how the taxes are going to change. So be a little patient, work through these next 10 years, and you're on the right track.
Let's bounce back to Fort Wayne here and talk to Charlene. Go right ahead with your question, Charlene.
Hello, Casey. Thank you for taking my call. I am looking at a major tax liability this year. So one way I was looking to reduce my tax bill was to make an accelerated 529 contribution for my grandchildren of $90,000. I have 3 grandchildren between 1 and 6 years old. I am concerned about the lack of investment options inside the College Choice Plan and wonder if you have any other recommended ways of making the gift.
Well, I can understand your concern about the investments that are inside the College Choice Plan because they are very limited and they're somewhat expensive and they've had fairly poor track records. Unfortunately, it's just not the best investment tool that's out there, but you get great tax benefits. Now, making that accelerated 529 contribution is something that, yes, many people choose to do it. However, I always push people away from this, especially with the Indiana plan. We're talking about the Indiana College Choice Plan. You get a tax credit for up to $5,000 $5,000 of contributions every single year. Now, if we were talking about a plan in another state that offered you a tax deduction, you could spread that deduction out over 5 years and get the full benefit. But when you're doing a $90,000 contribution in 1 year in Indiana, you're only getting that tax credit on the $5,000, and you can't spread that tax credit out, and you're getting no benefit for that extra $85,000 in accelerated contributions that you're making, other than they get to grow tax-free for higher qualified education. There may be other ways for you to do this. One, go ahead and put your $5,000 in contributions. Go ahead and make a contribution to the 529. And I would say I would add to that, it doesn't have to be a College Choice Advisor plan. You can go direct, College Choice Direct. The people at College Choice are very easy to work with. Pick up the phone, call them. They'll help you with advising you on what allocations you should be making and how to make the contributions, setting up the account. And it could save you quite a bit over the long haul rather than doing this through an advisor. So one, make that $5,000 contribution. Other ideas, one could be a Roth IRA. So you could have Roth IRAs for these children as long as they have income. So how do we create income for a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old? Well, you give them chores around the house, right? You give them things to do around the house, and you document those things very well, and you pay them an income for that, and that income can be countable for Roth contributions in the future, and then they can use those Roth, whatever that Roth grows to, they can take it out tax-free for qualified higher education expenses. So Roth might be a good idea. Another creative solution for you is to potentially at your, depending on your age difference, looks like I'm not sure what your age is, but if there is a big age difference, it may make sense for you to buy a small life insurance policy as also an incentive. So maybe you're paying a couple $1,000s a year for a $100,000 policy, and then as they graduate, they end up getting access to that death benefit. Maybe you've passed away by then. Creative but morbid concept, but there are a lot of different ways for you to do this.
Ah, very creative. I didn't know you could have an income for a 5-year-old to qualify for a Roth. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to Cindy. Cindy, go right ahead with your question.
I'm 63 years old and not a big spender, which puts me in an unusual situation. I retired from Raytheon with a substantial pension and with Social Security. I need very little income from my savings. I have everything in an IRA invested in 2.5% yield bonds. I don't want to take any risk, but it seems irresponsible to make such little interest. How can I increase my returns without taking on more risk?
Well, Cindy, as we wrap up the end of this segment, I want you to know there are things you can do to increase that return. It's good that you're thinking about these things. 2.5% yield on a bond. You can probably do better with that with building a bond ladder, an investment-grade corporate bond ladder, or maybe even a municipal bond ladder if we're talking about non-qualified dollars. I know this is IRAs, so it probably makes sense to do it with investment-grade corporate bonds in order to generate a higher yield. In addition, you could buy fixed annuities out there that have 5-year terms that are around 3%, 10-year terms that are around 3.5% to 4%. There's also ability to use indexed annuities out there, fixed indexed annuities. It'll give you a guarantee of your principal and maybe give you 50% upside of the market with none of the downside. So there are different options that you can use to potentially get more like, say, 3 to 5%. However, it's going to take some sitting down, really understanding your situation and reviewing all the different options and educating you on what those pros and cons are to each and every one, because there are always pros and cons.
Cindy, thank you for your call from over there in Wabash. And if you'd like to jump on the line, we invite you to call, because for the next 10 people who call right now, we're offering a complimentary financial review of your entire financial and retirement plan. It's an opportunity to get an education about your money, because we want you to make the best decisions you can going forward. So for the next 10 callers, Casey and the team at Howard Bailey will make time on the calendar, visit with you, and give you your very own purpose-based retirement. Our question of the day: how many years of earnings history are used to calculate your Social Security benefit? The answer is coming up.
You may have a purpose for your retirement, but have you repurposed your assets to help you achieve your dreams?
At Howard Bailey Financial, we believe in the purpose-based retirement. We help you determine a clear plan of action to get you to your goal. We can help you review all of the variables, find and understand your options, and help you come up with a strategy that gets you closer to your purpose. Let Howard Bailey help you achieve the retirement you deserve.
You need a plan to create the retirement you deserve. The first step is to tune in to the Purpose-Based Retirement Radio Hour with Casey Weade and Marshall Johnson. Saturdays at 11 a.m. and Sundays at 1 p.m. on WOWO 107.5 FM or Sunday mornings at 11 on 95.3 MNC.
Okay, our question of the day was around how many years of earnings they take a look at to calculate your Social Security benefit. Casey, which is the correct answer?
Well, just like your pension, if you have a pension, you're used to it typically calculating over the last 3 to 5 years of your earnings. However, when it comes to Social Security, it's actually option D. That's 35 years. And it's not just the last 35 years of your earnings history, it's the highest 35 years of your earnings history, and that's also indexed for inflation. And they use those highest 35 years in order to come up with something called your average indexed monthly earnings, or also known as your AIM. And they use that AIM in order to determine that primary insurance amount, the amount you're going to get at your full retirement age, which might be 66 to 67. So as we file for those Social Security benefits, what I want to do today is I want to walk you through really how Social Security benefits are calculated and how to read your statement as well. These are very important decisions and they shouldn't be taken lightly. So we are going to nerd out a little bit. I find these things probably too interesting, but I think you should find them very interesting as well if you're stepping into retirement. Really what Social Security is meant to do, it's meant to replace portions of your income, your pre-retirement income, once you get into retirement. Now, if we look at different replacement ratios, it's not going to be 100% of your income. It's going to be a portion. And the lower your income, the higher the replacement ratio. The higher your income, the smaller the replacement ratio. There's a smaller amount that's actually going to be replaced by Social Security. And there's 3 different tiers. That first tier is on the first $856 a month in earnings or $10,000 a year in earnings. That's replaced at 90%. The next $4,000 up to $60,000 a year in earnings is replaced at 32%, and then the earnings above that level, the next $4,700 up to $118,000 a year in 2016, is replaced at 15%. So 90, 32, 15, we can see how less and less of our income is being replaced as we get higher and higher into those income brackets. Another thing that you might notice on your Social Security statement is that it's projecting forward earnings into the future. It says this is what your earnings are expected to be in the future, your 2017 earnings and your earnings projections, and those are based on your last 2 years of earnings, assuming that you're going to work all the way to your full retirement age. So let's walk through an example to show you exactly what that means when they project what your benefit will be in the future. We have a gentleman that was 20s, he got his first job, and then at 31 he is now in a position, and he opened up his Social Security statement and said, well, now if I quit working, how much in benefits am I going to get? Because it projects that I'm going to get $1,800 a month in benefits. But if he were to quit working and not work anymore, then all of these years of earnings history would not be countable. So he has less than 35 years of earnings history. These would be the only numbers that would be calculated, and that Social Security benefit would actually be about $800 a month. The projected earnings are assuming that he's going to continue to earn what he earned over the previous 2 years, all the way from age 31 to age 67. And if he does that, his benefit's going to increase by about $1,000 a month. Another thing we want to take a look at, and you might have a question about, is what if I have an irregular earnings history? Or what if I work an extra 1 or 2 years? Is my Social Security benefit going to increase in the future? And it may, but it also may not. Let's take a look at a gentleman that was in his early years. He had a really good earnings. He had done very well, very ambitious in his 20s and 30s, had his highest earning year when he was 34 years old. Now then he went through a career transition, income dropped substantially, and then was followed by sequential raises until he reached the age of 60. Then he said, well, I want to bridge to retirement. And he's going to start consulting work from, say, 60 to his full retirement age, and that income dropped substantially. Now he's wondering, will my additional years of income actually improve my Social Security benefit? Well, these blue areas represent the 35 years of the highest earnings history. So now those continuing earnings that are below those past 35 years history are actually not going to improve future benefits. Alternatively, we could have someone who's now reaching the peak of their earning years in their 60s. And if this individual is to retire retire at age 60 at the peak of their earnings years, then the accountable benefits will be all these blue areas of benefits moving backwards. However, the projected benefit on the Social Security benefit statement assumes that he's going to continue to work until his full retirement age, that red area that we see all the way to the left of your screen. And those red areas would actually replace those lower earning years that he had in his 20s and dramatically increase the Social Security benefit. Well, what if we don't have 35 years of earnings history? If you don't have 35 years of earnings history, you're still going to have a Social Security benefit. However, it's going to be substantially lower. Take, for instance, an individual that worked from age 22 to age 49, does not have 35 years of earnings history, has to continue to work throughout these red lines up until age 57 to fill out all those zeros that will be counted in that average when it's used to calculate the Social Security benefit and dramatically increase those benefits. We also see this area over here, and this is what the Social Security is assuming will happen, is that that individual will continue to earn income at that level all the way to full retirement age and replace those lower earning years with higher earning years going into the average, again, dramatically increasing the benefit. All of your earnings are indexed for inflation. As stated previously, if we go back to 1958, you could take your earnings in that year and multiply them by 13.968. Alternatively, your earnings in 1990 would be multiplied by 2.440, and those are how your earnings are actually indexed for inflation. You can pick this chart up at the Social Security Administration's website, ssa.gov. Now, how much are additional years of working actually going to have an impact on your Social Security? Michael Kitce's put out a great chart that illustrates this. If you have under 35 years of lifetime earnings, and if you're earning under $10,000 a year, you're in the 90% replacement bracket. That's going to impact you the most versus someone that's in the higher earning income bracket. Someone that has earnings currently that are greater than their 35-year average is going to be impacted more on that side if they have in that 90% replacement ratio and less on the 15%. If someone has current earnings that are under their 35-year earning history, then they will be impacted the least by continuing to work moving forward. So when will you file for your Social Security benefits, and what will an additional year of work or retiring today, what impact will it have on your retirement's future?
Wow, you're right. That was quite the nerd fest, but I think very interesting. And you also think it's important for people to check what their earnings history has been, right? Because
it is.
Mistakes
Sometimes errors are made, and you can again check that out by logging into My Social Security at the SSA's website.
Very impressive stats there, my friend. Hey, we have an opportunity we hope that you'll take advantage of. For the next 10 people to call us right now, we're offering a complimentary review of your entire financial and retirement plan. It's an opportunity to get an education about what's going on in your portfolio so that you can make the best decisions for yourself moving forward. So for the next 10 callers, Casey and the team are willing to take some time on the calendar to sit down and visit with you and give you your very own purpose-based retirement. And of course, you can always dial into the purposebasedretirement.com and you can look for an opportunity to order one of Casey's books, the 2017 Guide to Retirement Efficiency, and his previous book, The Purpose-Based Retirement. We will see you next week.